Welcome to Balance Boldly, the podcast where we get bold about our balance and campaign to shake the shame that stunts our growth. I'm your host, Naketa, Thigpen, balance and relationship advisor for bold women in business and a few brave men. As always, as we launch another season and another reason to tap in for every single moment of release into our inner brilliance and moving forward with the amazing divine assignments that we all have. Today, you'll understand just why divineness has such an extra elevated reason and meaning for today. I'm bringing you someone extremely special. I had the opportunity to meet this beautiful woman and her partner, her business partner, in, I think it was October. I was hitting the streets of their city in New York City. We met at an incredible conference by the Business of We, the Women Enterprise Summit that was going on. It was fantabulous, and we connected afterwards and kind of never let go of each other, which is incredible in its divinity. Okay, so welcome, Dani Hughes.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. It's so amazing to be with you.
Thank you so much as well. You know, I've been waiting and we've been playing like tag with trying to get this appointment, thing together because your schedule is full and incredible, as well as mine, which has been awesome. And I know you're doing such, just fantastic work with women specifically and women-owned businesses. You're serving them at such a higher level for those that are ready. And I highlight that because you and I have talked about that. For
Yes.
Women that are ready to become their best, most enlightened financial self, to really have the independence that they need to thrive as they move forward into every new day that they're offered the opportunity to be here, be present, and be impactful. So thank you, Dani, for all that you do.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you do. And I'm so excited to be here with you.
Me too. In the spirit of alignment, and most of you hearing this will be hearing this because we're pre-recording since she's in her New York establishment and I'm in my Philadelphia establishment. You'll be hearing this in just a few weeks, literally at the top of 2018. And many of you know that I've kind of been off the grid a little bit with the passing of one of my mother elements, my dear Aunt Wanda, who was an incredible force in my life, who absolutely planted a seed of self-sufficiency, especially when it came to finances. My aunt was a beast. She worked 4 and 5 jobs at one time, single mom, going through school, doing all that she did to become a great impactor in the nursing industry before cancer, unfortunately, tried to take her out way too early, but I'm so grateful that her pain is over and she left me with so many planted seeds. One of which is I will never, ever have to depend on anyone, including my husband, who I love and want in my life, but I do not need his finances because of some of the seeds that my aunt, my beautiful Aunt Wanda, kind of imparted on me. And I know, Dani, that that's a lot of what you and Val do for other women. It's not about saying, I just want to be separate from men. I don't want any help from men. It's, it's being self-sufficient. So I would love for you to, just tell everyone, the bold and the brave women and men out there that are listening to Balance Boldly right now, how you got into this, why you do what you do, and what leads you to keep impacting the world in such a significant way, and probably one of the scarier ways, dealing with people's nakedness around financial wealth and investment.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing about your auntie. I think that the women figures in our lives, especially as young women, impact us so dramatically in ways that we don't fully realize until maybe we're a little bit older and look back in hindsight. For me, my parents divorced when I was real young, and my father, after my mother had custody of us for a few years and floundered and really lost her mind and didn't have any money and, what I guess looked like neglect from the standpoint of the state, and they moved us over to our dad, and he essentially held a, financial gullet over her head that whole time. Mm-hmm. When we were younger, he wouldn't pay alimony on time. She would constantly get evicted from places. And my long-term takeaway from that, and my mother and I are close now, and she doesn't certainly live like that anymore because my sister and I take care of her. But one of the things that really stuck with me, standing online at the grocery store, knowing that we only had $20 for the week and figuring out how much everything costs and how many grapes we could get and making jokes about it, was that I never wanted to be like that. I didn't ever want to be beholden to somebody else having that kind of power over me. Yeah. And the power was emotional over her, but the power that I was talking about was financial. And so that's a big reason I think that my soul found itself into the financial industry. And I've been all over the financial industry. I actually started as a broker, which I hated, frankly, because I felt there was such a conflict between what I was, selling somebody because there was this much in it for me and what their portfolio really deserved. And so over the years, I found alignment in creating my own company with my partner, Valerie, who you mentioned earlier. And we're independent. We are beholden to no one. No big organization owns us, tells us what to buy or sell. And we've spent, a quarter of a century each plus in the industry. So we really do have the understanding of the ups and downs and the long-term aspect of really building an empire and whatever that empire is to you, because we're all unique. Right. Little snowflakes.
No, that's so true. And I'm so grateful that you are honoring us with part of the vulnerability of your story and where you came from, right? There's a lot of people who have amassed success who are in a space of, well, I'm just dominating now, so let's just focus on that and going forward. Versus really telling the truth. I have a friend and a colleague who's also been an expert on the podcast named Natalie Fikes. She's pretty freaking amazing in the personal development space. And her kind of personal hashtag is tell the truth. You better tell the truth and tell on yourself first, which I absolutely love. And that's really what it is you're saying everyone is coming from a space and place that, maybe they're not necessarily proud of. They wish their childhood would have been different. God knows, I would have rather had a very different life than I was, born into or thrown into, but there was a reason. And part of that is you were able to amass a strength and a skill, and, you fell all over the place and, skinned your knee for us. So we don't have to do that. And now you can tell us how to avoid those pitfalls and move forward with grace. And, being brave enough to take some risk and still jump anyway,
Yeah, that's right. And I think that, with speaking specifically about money and finances, I mean, this is something that, we all kind of talk very heavily about, but we don't really talk about the nuts and bolts of what we're dealing with because it's such a shunned subject. We're afraid to talk about it, more afraid to talk about it than we are to talk about sex or talk about, somebody else's sex life or their kids or their this or their that. We're much more concerned and worried about, what other people have and are we doing it right? And we shoulda, coulda, woulda, we should have done this better. We should have remembered this, or I should know this, or I'm too afraid to ask. And a lot of the lessons that we share and guide with our clients and the women and the men who are ready and willing to take this journey is that you trust your gut. Your gut, the thing that we're always told around money is that emotions are no good. You gotta be unemotional. You can't trust your gut because that's just something that's not, nuts and bolts. But I disagree with that whole premise because I think that your gut is really what guides you. That's what's going to tell you that this person that you're dealing with is right for you. I'll share something with you that happened to me a couple of years ago, and it happens all the time, but this specific example just kind of sets the table with this. I was leasing a car, and, I went through the motions with the sales guy, and he's very sweet and nice, and I liked the car, and then they shutter you into the finance guy, and you sit down, and there's this giant pile of papers, and he's going through everything, and he's, acting like, well, this, and this, and you sign here, and I was afraid, because I know numbers, I know math, I run a financial services business, but I didn't quite understand how one thing connected to another.
Yeah.
And I felt ashamed and I felt intimidated, and I was noticing those feelings. And I asked him a question that didn't necessarily relate to exactly what I was concerned about, but I wanted to hear if he could make me feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, he, shamed me even more. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't have to be here. I actually can go down the street and get the same car from a different person who might take me more seriously or make me feel like I can ask the questions that I need to ask and learn what I need to learn. And so that's where your intuition and your gut comes in, is in dealing with these partners that you have to spend your life with, really, on and off, in your financial journey.
No, you're 100% right. And I'm so grateful. We deal a lot, like the whole campaign around Balance Boldly podcast is shaking the shame that's stunting your growth, whether it's financial, relational, in your business, in your personal life, whatever. And the fact that you were able to have that identifying moment in the midst of what you knew was happening, he probably was trying to shame you into buying bigger, buying more, why do you think you have the right to be here? Whatever level he was trying to take with you, he was trying to shame you into some kind of decision. And what it did is it lost him a customer, right? Like, because you knew your power.
Yeah. And it also made me realize the power of just sitting back and noticing the internal responses that we are sending ourselves, because those things are so important as guides, and it also made me realize that I do have this power. Actually, I could turn around and say, like, you know what, I'll come back, and then everybody got all upset and, but I didn't care, because I thought to myself, I've got to feel comfortable with this. A car is a car.
Right.
And the same thing, like a house is a house, a mortgage is a mortgage, all of these things that we buy and we sell and we embark on from a financial perspective are our seat at the table. And so having that seat at the table, you have to sit there with power. So knowing that you have that power is all about just noticing who you're partnering with, because you don't need to know everything, right? I don't need to know everything about signing a lease if I'm signing a lease, because I'm actually just in it for the car. I'm not actually in it for those pieces of paper. I'm in it for the heated seats. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So I think that, just making sure that we understand that those things are our choice. And we can take our time with it. That's really a big piece of the financial journey.
Yeah, and being unafraid to say, I don't know, let me seek advisement, right? Like, to your point about the leasing in the car as the example, you don't necessarily have to go get a bachelor's degree or an MBA in, how to sell cars just to make sure you're not taking advantage of, right? Like, there are advisors and people out there to help with different specific niches where you do need someone knowledgeable, so you don't get into a 28% interest rate or something bizarre and crazy. Just like you need someone who's knowledgeable with your finances, your wealth management. How about that? Let's wealth.
That's right.
Management. Okay.
That's right. And that's really all about picking somebody who makes you feel like they've got you. They've got you and they get you. Similar also to like a doctor, right? You've been to a doctor who makes you feel like uncomfortable and you don't know what to ask. And then you remember afterwards, oh, I should have asked him this, but I didn't feel comfortable. I felt so weirded out, and you use these big words, or she used these big words. And it's really all about that comfort, because they're your partner. They're your health partner. So it's the same thing with your money and your financial goals and building your empire. These are the people who are your partners in life. So it's critical to get that right for yourself. And it's different for everybody. We're all individually guided by different forces. So making sure that that person feels right for you at that time is imperative.
I think you just hit another point, Dani, because you said, at that time, right? And I think a lot of us have commitment issues. We've talked about this on the podcast before, relating it to relationships, relating it to business, new projects that you're hesitant on, or doing too many dang on projects at one time because of your commitment issues, right? It allows you to sparse yourself too thin. and many times when it comes to choosing your trusted advisor, your team of trusted advisors, the person who's, over your personal development and assisting you with that, or co-creating a business strategy with you for revamping a new business or revising an old business and giving it new life to meet the new expectation of your forward thinking lifestyle, or, maintaining or preserving your wealth that you either have or are creating. When you're building those relationships with potential trusted advisors, many people are hesitant to do that because, one, they're like, yeah, I like him or her today, but will I connect with them in 3 years? And they're forward thinking the breakup. They're already thinking about how awkward the breakup may have, instead of being in alignment with some relationships, and I'm going biblical, are meant for a lifetime.
Yep.
And some are just seasonal, right? And some
That's
people
right.
are just met for a reason that gave you the encouragement, the knowledge, the chutzpah, if you will, to just move forward with a thing, but they are not necessarily the person they're supposed to hold your hand through it, right?
That's right. And sometimes they're inherited, right? So let's just say, you used your dad's advisor because that's the person that managed your dad's money. And so, you felt comfortable with that person because you kind of grew up around them and they came to the house every once in a while. And so you knew them and you knew that they were an expert. But then when you embark on your own relationship with them, it always feels a little weird and you feel bad. You feel bad that it doesn't work and it doesn't feel right, but you don't know how to get yourself unencumbered and out of the relationship. And that, again, is really about taking that bold step and acknowledging your power and understanding this is your money. This is your future, your empire that you're building. You have every right and every important decision-making tool to make that change from the person who is not making you feel good about your empire or your money, or making you feel shamed or like you don't know anything and they know everything. And the financial industry is actually set up to be like that. I don't know. I mean, I think that we all feel a little bit, unsure of ourselves, especially when we're listening to maybe like one of the financial news stations or something like that, because all of this information just blasting out of a fire hose, but we all feel like that, and they do it on purpose. And the reason that it's set up like that is to make you feel like you need them always. It is the financial industrial complex. It reinvigorates itself all the time because it gets more and more complicated and more twisted. And they do that on purpose to keep you attached to the fact that they're the experts and you know nothing. But it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't have to be that way. With the right partnership and the right mentorship and guide, you can find that expert that knows the things that you need them to know, and you trust them and give them discretion on helping you build the empire you want to build. Because you can't know everything.
You should.
Women, we try to, though, right? Women try to know everything about everything before they embark on it. Okay, well, I'm going to go change that drain, or I'm going to switch out that light bulb. I got to know every single thing about what could go wrong before I go and do it.
You're so right, and you're preaching to the choir with that one too, because I know me, I'm like addicted to research in some levels, which is a plus and a minus, because I'll definitely be well-rounded in something, but then I've also distracted myself from the core thing that I'm really good at, right? Because I spent 5 hours researching something when I could have just, know enough so you can ask, good questions around a thing, but you're asking it to someone that is their core thing, versus you trying to a sub-core of the many other things that you have under your belt that you need, because it really is distracting when we overdo it in our superwoman, super male, powered thing that we do. But something else that you made me before, one of the questions that I'm going to ask you in a few seconds, and everyone who's a part of Balance Boldly knows this is completely organic. There is no script. Dani was not provided anything other than don't forget to tell people how to reach you at the end, but so we don't. So I am going to ask you in a couple of shapes, how can people decide or ask questions or vet who that next good potential expert is, especially when it comes to managing a precious gift such as money, which is one of their most valuable tools that they have to live their best life. But a pre-question before that is really around dealing with the fact that some people are having commitment issues with, maybe even going in the flow with someone they are connected to, have met, have been referred to by someone they know, love, and trust, whatever the case is, because of the guilt and shame that they have around past mistakes that they've made with their money. And obviously, they need to come to you, open enough, which is why you say they're ready, to go to the next level, working with women and women-owned businesses who are ready. But they have to be ready to say, listen, Dani and Valerie, I've made some mistakes. Here are some of the mistakes I've made. I know to do better, but I want to ensure that I don't fall into those holes again, but being willing to at least share what that was, whether it was, bad marriage and someone had full financial control prior, or, whatever their issue was, that they're kind of afraid to open up the books, or, peel the curtain back a little bit, which is why they're not moving forward, because they feel like you might shame them or judge them. And that's why they're hesitant. You know what I mean?
I do. And one of the interesting, or one of the passions that Val and I have around talking about money is changing the language. So before we ever ask, what went wrong, the first thing that we're going to say is, what feels good? What went right? What are the stories that you have in your past around money and finance that make you feel good? What are the stories that you're living through? And then often that will then take us to the things that might have gone wrong or didn't feel right. But it feels much more, it comes from a position of gratitude and gratefulness and excitement, rather than, okay, let me just tick off all the things that went wrong that scared me and freaked me out. Because that list is long, right? For all of us. Yeah. It really is. But when we focus on the positive, then we get just a much bigger picture of where we're going. And that's why we start with positive reinforcing of, this is why we're doing this.
No, that totally makes sense. Starting with your personal why, and it does help that you rock the same gender, right, as your ideal client, because there's an inherent relatability. Just the fact that we are women, and we, every person, every human has their own story, but especially from one woman to another, there's an immediate connection or disconnect, depending on, how that woman is positioning herself. But you and Valerie, under Divine Asset Management, are positioning yourselves as relatable people who have gone through some things, and are not just coming out of the wall saying, listen, we're coming from a bankroll line of millionaires and billionaires, and this is why you have to do this, and you better do that, and you were wrong for doing it this way. You're saying, we came up through the ranks too, whatever that rank process look like, so we can relate to some pain points that we may share in common, and pull you through, because we were able to push through on our own, and we're not failing to turn around and look back and pull some other women forward as well. And I think that's a fantastic way to address that, by just being vulnerable and honest and saying, here's our why. And if that doesn't help to diminish the feeling of prejudgment, I don't know what will.
Well, everything has to come from authenticity, because you can feel it when somebody's being fake with you. It doesn't matter if they're selling you some, snake sauce, or they're trying to be a service agent to you. When it smells funny, and so coming from that position of authenticity and, like you said, vulnerability, and explaining that, look, it's not a straight uphill ride. Like all of a sudden you're going to get the answers and then go, and then the chart goes straight up to the right. Like, it doesn't work like that. We all know it doesn't work like that, because life gets in the way. Things happen. Maybe not directly to you and your finances, but maybe a sister-in-law, something happens in her life where you need to actually borrow against your house to help her family. These things happen in our lives, which is why when we share the reality of money and how it ebbs and flows, and how we can protect ourselves against those ebbs and flows so that we can continually get into a better position, it's a real great process to share all of this when we're sitting together. So we have these events 4 times a year called Wealthwise Exchanges, where we sit with a very intimate group of women and we talk about money. And the dialogue is always a little bit different, because even though we talk about certain principles, the 5 principles of wealth wisdom that we follow, it's really important for us to understand what's going on in each woman's life. And I can't even tell you how many times I have been just blown away and learned so much from these women, because everyone is going through a different thing. They're different ages, different lifestyles, different careers, different burdens. So it's been a real gift to serve women that are able to be open and willing and ready to embark on a journey where they're fulfilling their empire dream. And one thing I just want to mention about that, we're talking about money and just the word money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that women often ask us is like, what's your minimum? Because when we talk about wealth wisdom and we talk about, wealth design, they're like, oh, well, I'm not wealthy. We're always like, I'm not wealthy. Meanwhile, a guy who doesn't even have 2 nickels to rub together is like, yeah, sign me up. You know what I mean? Wealth, yeah, I got it. We think about that differently. So again, words matter. And so we don't have minimums. What we do require is that the women and men that we deal with aren't in a lot of debt. We can certainly point them to some great resources to help them in that endeavor. Mm-hmm. But it's really about once you're out of debt and you're ready to embark on getting a seat at the table from an investment perspective, that's when we're called to serve.
No, that's a great clarification too, because it also helps to know where your best selves are for divine asset management and where you're best at helping people. I'm sure you can help them at all different stages, but you know where you work best. And if you're playing in your favorite lane, you're going to play harder and help people go further faster than if you were just trying to stretch yourself across helping everybody, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Focus. Stay in your lane.
Exactly.
I love that.
So with that said, that very next kind of ball that I want to pitch back in your corner is, how does someone who heard you very clearly and said, you know what, I've done a pretty decent job of, getting the majority of my debt down, maybe minus school loans, whatever. Mm-hmm, but for the most part, they don't have anything that's obstructing their way of investing. They just don't know where to start, how to start. And they are nervous about building a relationship with a potential person that they don't want to live in the bed with, for the rest of their lives. Because that's kind of how they're looking at their financial managers, right? Mm-hmm. Wealth managers. How do they screen or vet or filter to at least know that they're in the right highway with the right person? You know what I mean?
Right. That's a great question. Well, you were talking about how you do a lot of research. Sometimes you go down that rabbit hole of research. I think one of the ways that we can all work with somebody that we're either connected to somehow is research your own network. Mm-hmm. Look at the women and the men that you're connected with, that you have deep respect for, that you have a lot of faith in. And who's in the financial industry, maybe whose family is in the financial industry, or who has a brother or who has a sister. That's a good place to start. If you don't have somebody in mind. Certainly I would encourage them to seek out advice and talk about it with close family members that they know have assets that are managed and that are doing well and have talked about that. That's one place to start. And I think that, that's the easiest route, really, because then you're getting it word of mouth. And we know that referrals are the best thing ever, right? Referrals are really the lifeblood of your business, because when you get a referral, it's somebody who's already giving you credibility, right? And that kind of honor. So you're already up on a higher stair than somebody who put an ad in the paper.
Right. No, that makes complete sense. And I think that's a good space to start. Some of the best connections I've ever made started right at home and I don't mean that from a familial perspective, but right at home in my core, my circle of influence, right?
Right.
Who do I go to for website design? Who has a good executive assistant that's good at project management, instead of me just randomly looking out there and just trying to find all the research of the right questions. Sometimes just starting right with the people that are closest to you can be helpful, with at least finding direction with who to go to. So I completely agree with you there, for lack of a better one. So I have to ask you, before we get ready to die down a little bit and tie a bow on everything, what does Dani do? Look, that's a whole podcast series, right? What does Dani do?
It is a whole podcast.
It is a whole podcast. What do you do for yourself? Because you're stretching your energy thin, right? Like, you're doing amazing work. You're helping. You're riding in your lane, but you also have a family. You also have other obligations with volunteering and other commitment I don't want to say issues, but responsibilities. With all that said, as a woman who owns her own business, what do you do when you just need to unapologetically pause and take some time to refuel and recalibrate for yourself?
That's such a great question, because I had to do that a little bit this morning. And the short, when I only have a short window, because I got to get to it, I will make a gratitude list. So what that looks like for me is, wherever I am, if I'm sitting down and maybe have my phone or I have my notebook out in front of me, I will write down at least 25 things that I am grateful for, and I can start to feel and come from gratefulness, because that opens your heart, it opens your possibility, and it opens up the way that you can actually deal with whatever it is you're dealing with at the time, right? And it can be really simple. I'm really grateful that there was some shampoo left in the shower this morning. And it could be really beautiful. Like, I just love my baby BB's kisses, my daughter's kisses, the way that she gives me that gorgeous kiss and holds my face, so things like that, and opening your heart really allow you to have the space to get bigger. If I have a little bit more time, and I try to make this time, I've been trying to make this time at least every day, even if it's for 10 minutes, is doing a focused exercise, whether it's yoga, or there's this really cool app called 7-minute exercise. I don't know if it's just called 7 minutes, but it's literally 7 minutes of like just hardcore, like you can't breathe at the end of the thing. So you take yourself out of yourself, and focus on something. Like, you need your body. If you don't have your body working, then you can't do your work. Then you can't give, you can't serve. So you need to really take care of yourself. And that is really a focus of mine, and has been, because I see around me all the time friends and family, their bodies hurting because of stress or shame that turns into cancer, or things like this. They really affect you. So that's how I make space.
No, that totally makes sense. And that's so awesome. You'll be excited. At the end of every show, I wrap up with a little gentle honesty, which we're not quite there yet, but we're almost there. And you just gave me something like, yes, I'm going to put that in there, which is super awesome. So how can people follow up with you, Dani, when they want to find out what Dani does? Connect with you?
Sure. So my website is divineassetmgt.com, and divine is spelled DIVINE, because there is something much higher than money. And I'm on CNBC pretty much every week on Closing Bell, which is at 4:00 Eastern. And I talk about the markets, and a little bit sometimes I get in there about women and how impactful we are as investors and consumers, and how we're changing the platform of businesses right now. And I hope to be doing more podcasting and working with more women like yourself, Naketa, because I love what you're doing and what you're putting out in the world. I think it's gorgeous and beautiful, and it just is making the world a better place.
Aw, you're making me blush over here. Thank you, Dani. No, you know that I love you, and I so appreciate you taking time.
Love you back. Thank you.
You're so incredible. You guys have just gotten an amazing gift in so many ways. So I'm so grateful. Dani, don't go anywhere. I want to wrap us up with a little bit of gentle honesty. So stay right there. Oh, balance boldly. You beautiful dreamers and doers that are out there being bold and brave in all of your next level selves and pushing yourselves past all the pain and the process that you've gone through. I have to give you a little small kind of different recap of the gentle honesty. Usually I take a blended moment from what I said and some takeaway that I said and some takeaway that the expert said and kind of infuse it in some great sentence. But I have to say that Dani Hughes did her thing today, okay? She brought you amazing information from her heart and her mind and infused it in a way that I believe the nuggets will be literally immersed into your bloodstream if you were paying attention and if you were ready to receive everything that she brought from Divine Asset Management, her life, her trials, her tribulations, and the beautiful triumphs that she's been able to do not only for herself, but also for her clients through Divine Asset Management. So a little gentle honesty moment that I kind of wrote, it was a mix of quotes just from Dani Hughes. So there's actually no Naketa in this moment. The gentle honesty moment I want to leave you with is to own your power, serve your body, and begin with a space of recognizing the things that you are grateful for every single day, down to the little things. So I hope you guys really receive that and take that with you as you move through this incredible year. You know, 2018 is triumphantly beautiful for so many of you. And that includes everyone who's under the sound of my voice right now, who might be questioning, you just had a bad day, you just had a crazy moment, you just wanted to, choke your husband for a couple of seconds and just, kiss him to breathe life back in. The fact that you have life in this moment means that you have an opportunity to do things different, to do things greater, and to literally shake the shame that's been plaguing you and stunting you from tapping into your best self. So I have to thank Dani Hughes again for taking time out of her day. She's literally in the middle of a major closing deal and doing all this kind of fantastic work today. And she just, along with myself, planted seeds that will help you grow in your life, your relationships, and your business. So as always, if you guys like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast to help us ensure that the bold and brave people that are out there have access to these valuable balance tools, because that's what this is. If you can get your life right, get your money right, get your relationship right, you have balance. So get it together and pay attention to all of the nuggets that are surrounding you, and don't just be hype off of the moment and then go into a cycle of closed-mindedness with more commitment challenges. So where I'd like to bring you in this final moment is continue the conversation with me. One of my new favorite places to play recently has been Instagram. I never would have thought I'd be on Instagram, but we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. We're also on Instagram at Balance Boldly. So come on over and continue the conversation. And of course, if you're not already a member of the new Dreamers Blueprint community and the Insiders Academy that's under that, you are missing out. We literally just launched a new accelerator called the B3 Accelerator, which is really helping you if you got stuck and you're stagnant in something, you're trying to revamp, rebuild, or rebrand your business. It's an 8-week accelerator, and all of those women and men get first access to the Insiders Academy, which is the next level of Dreamers Blueprint. So come on over to dreamersblueprint.com and make sure you get on the list so you can get information on the invitation for the webinar and the application that is a part of that, because you can't just get in. Sorry, guys. It's not a push button. You're accepted. It's a community of people that are really coming together to go to the next level. So make sure you do that. dreamersblueprint.com. I am out. I'm so excited about everything we've done. I want you guys, until the next episode, to set an intention to enjoy the balance of your day, but do it boldly.